VHS Files contains spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's showtime. It's showtime.
Welcome to the VHS Files podcast with Jenny Lou,
So what do you want to do tonight?
Jason,
What about pizza and movie night?
Eric,
I want to rent a movie.
and Josh.
I want to go to a good video store so I can get a good movie.
And this is the movie of the week.
Let's get this pizza movie night started.
We're here! Welcome back to the VHS Files podcast, the show where we go back in time for a movie of the week. We look for the almost famous, a bigger quote, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of our favorite or forgotten films. You guys can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at VHS Files Podcast. And also check out the VHS Files YouTube channel for bonus content. Tonight, we're talking about a little ghost movie. How's everybody doing? Unfortunately, Jenny will not be joining us again tonight, but nonetheless, how are you doing, Eric?
Jenny was sucked into the closet in the middle of the night and vanished into the nether realm.
She's in the TV, and and,
She's with the TV people.
Yeah.
Damn, I hate when that happens.
All you need is some tennis balls and some rope. You can handle this problem. That's how you solve all the problems. Tennis balls.
I mean,
and rope.
is it really that bad of a problem if you can solve it with some tennis balls and a rope?
Well,
Not
I mean,
that
I
bad,
haven't
is
gone
it?
that far. I mean, I changed the channels and shit didn't work, so I just got the fuck out of there.
Did you roll the TV out, in the driveway? Said, fuck this.
Tonight we're talking about Poltergeist.
The house looks just like the one next to it. And the one next to that. And the one next to that. A young couple live in it.
Give Ken a kiss.
You are so obnoxious.
With their 3 children.
Honey, chewy fried 10 times.
And something more.
They're here.
Sweetie, remember last night? Do you remember when you woke up and you said you were here?
Uh-huh.
Well, who did you mean? Who's here?
TV people.
Something's funny going on here next door. Something,
We were wondering if maybe you had experienced any disturbances lately.
what kind of disturbances?
I don't know what hovers over this house. I've never sensed anything like it.
That thing is in there with my baby!
They're hundreds.
Now Steven Spielberg crosses a frightening new threshold. Into a world within our own. Its form is revealed.
What is it?
Its focus is clear. And the games are over. Poltergeist. It knows what scares you.
The remake.
No, not the remake. Don't get me on that tangent. But
Wait. Did Eric watch the remake? I think he might have watched the remake.
This is a new movie, right?
Yeah.
yeah, totally new concept. Nobody's ever heard of it before.
Who's in that movie? Is Sam Rockwell in that movie?
He is. And
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's like the main guy. And
Jesus.
I was like, okay, well, if anything, Sam Rockwell's in it, it'll be good. And he can't even save that movie. That movie is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, there's a few, like we've talked about them a few times on here, of older movies where the remakes, like we've mentioned them multiple times, Evil Dead, Friday the 13th. Yeah, this was definitely a dud along with the Pet Sematary remake.
Yeah. And I was kind of hanging with Pet Sematary a little bit, but it's pretty boring. And then the end of the new Pet Sematary, I wasn't a big fan of at all. So it just brought it way down in my book. Anyways, tonight we're talking about Poltergeist. This is a movie you would have seen on the shelves back in the 80s with a little girl sitting in front of a TV full of static, holding her hands up. And this is one of those movies that you saw in the stores that always captivated me. This image of Carol Ann in front of the TV with her hands up and everything is iconic. I mean, I don't think you'll ever get something that's, that iconic for a ghost movie ever again, honestly. Like
it's playing with sort of a meta vibe similar to like Videodrome and
right.
The Ring, where you're watching a TV and the TV in the movie is a thing, and someone's interacting with the TV, and you're going, ugh.
The TV is a character in the film. It is not just a inanimate object. It's actually a character.
For sure. And, I realized this movie came out almost 40 years ago now, and there's a slight possibility people might not have seen this movie that are listening to our show. So a brief little, what you would have read on the back of the VHS box for this movie is, life is very unpleasant for a California family until a host of otherworldly forces invade their peaceful suburban home. Their house is turned into a supernatural sideshow, and if the family doesn't clear out, they will be swept off into a nightmarish chaos. So
that wraps it up pretty nicely, I'd say.
Pretty good. And another thing you may not know about this movie is it was not directed by Steven Spielberg, even though his name is all over this movie. This was directed by the late, great Tobe Hooper.
Give it up for the Hoop.
You may be familiar with Tobe Hooper from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Eaten Alive, The Fun House, and Jason's favorite movie.
Don't fucking say it!
Invaders from Mars.
I love it. I love it. Thank you.
But he also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Night Terrors. Later in his career, he would do the Toolbox Murders, Mortuary, and Gin. This was released on June 4th, 1982, with a budget of $10.7 million. Box office grossing $121.7 million. Safe to say, this was a big hit back in 1982.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. And it was released amongst the likes of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Tootsie, E.T., which we'll probably be talking about here shortly, The Secret of NIMH, Annie, Blade Runner, and John Carpenter's The Thing.
Jeez, hell of a year.
Yes.
Man, I mean, Secret of NIMH kicked all their ass.
I know. No one will forget the year that Secret of NIMH came out.
Dude,
that's right.
I love that cartoon as a kid. I loved the hell out of it. So, yeah, I loved it. I should probably watched it more at that time than I did any of these other movies, because I think I was 5.
See, I thought Jason was being comedic there, because I've never seen Secret of NIMH.
What?
Never.
That is actually, it's a terrifying movie to watch for a child.
Wow.
Yeah, if you're a kid, there's an owl scene in that movie. It's scary as shit, and the rats are scary.
I'm starting to realize that I'm the one who started this movie podcast so we can talk about movies, and I'm such a movie buff, but I'm always the one talking about movies that I haven't seen on this podcast.
Well, I'll make you feel better. I hadn't seen Poltergeist until probably in the past 5 years.
Wow.
From now.
Wow.
My first time. So it escaped me as a child somehow. I was born this year. It came out, also worth mentioning. So, it's not like it was popular when I was a kid. I was an infant child.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is, like Josh said, one of the biggest, best ghost movies ever made. And I want to go back to an episode where we were talking about us going to the horror high school here, and Mr. Trigonometry of Horror saying, I've seen just as many horror movies, and he never saw Josh labeled probably the best ghost movie ever. And I just saw it 5 years ago.
And this one was rated PG, so there's no reason he shouldn't have watched it.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. I mean, we all have these shame movies that we just somehow missed. And
right.
Josh has a bunch of them.
I do.
Obviously, yeah. He does.
Let me deflect to Josh right now, because he's got.
Let's go over to Josh.
It's weird. It's weird. You watch all, and it's just somehow one slips through the cracks and you don't see it.
Well, at this time, being that E.T. came out around the same time, I'll let you slip. You probably saw E.T. though, didn't you?
Yes, I saw E.T. as a young child. It made me very sad.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt my feelings.
Yeah, that'll be a sad one to talk about on the podcast one day.
That movie just makes me want to eat Reese's Pieces every time I see it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's the only thing I really get out of E.T.
Well, being as though that this was came out the year Eric was born, take us back to that time, Mr. Eric.
We're sending you back in time.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, Wayne Gretzky scored his 77th goal of the NHL season, breaking the previous record of 76. He ended the season with 92, which remains the record to this day. You guys watch hockey?
I do not.
I do not.
No. Do you know why the hockey rinks have curved corners? It's because if they were 90 degrees, the ice would melt.
Yeah.
Good one.
Go geometry.
Yes. So in 82, a syzygy takes place where all 9 planets aligned on the same side of the sun.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, I guess that hasn't happened since. Actually, I don't know that. I can't say that. But space is fascinating. Like, did you know that NASA has a theory about why aliens haven't visited our solar system yet?
No.
Apparently, they checked the reviews, but we only had 1 star.
Oh, man.
1 star. In 1982, the world's loudest recorded human shout is made by Susan Birmingham at 120 decibels. That's approximately as loud as a rock concert.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you guys know Hawaiians never laugh very loud?
No.
Yeah, they just give a low ha. They just give a low ha. They just give a low ha.
I'm not gonna laugh.
Nope.
I'm not gonna laugh.
Not
Gosh,
laughing.
they just give a low.
No. Give it up. Give it up. Nope. Not doing it.
Oh my God.
Just aloha. And finally, let's end it with this fun little ditty from 1982. Hit it, Josh. Rock the Casbah.
You want me to really piss you off, Eric?
Yeah.
I was never really a big fan of the Clash.
Oh, really?
Never really got into them.
That's cool.
I understand how important they are to the scene and all that good stuff. It's just, unfortunately, they're a band that slipped through the cracks for me. It wasn't one that my mom ever listened to, and nothing that really got ingrained in me. So never really went back and kind of did the Matrix dive on those guys and like downloaded all the music and got real into it like I did with the Beatles and stuff. So
Right. I mean, for me, the older Clash, like the 70s Clash, is really where it's at more than the 80s Clash. But
well,
I
you
still
guys
like that. I like that song.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll rock the Casbah.
I should say that I don't dislike the Clash. I will listen to the Clash. I like the Clash. It's just that they were never a band that I really got into listening to.
I hear you.
But all right, is everybody ready?
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Time for some trivia.
No.
So this one, the trivia this week kind of centers around Poltergeist a little bit. Funny enough, Poltergeist was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. For which did it win? I will give you multiple choice. Best score, best sound effects, best visual effects.
He wants us to say best visual effects.
Best visual effects.
Is that your final answer?
No, that's what he wants us to say. I'm going to go with the sound.
You were all wrong. You could have guessed any answer and you would have been wrong. Actually, they won none of the above.
Oh, it was loaded. You son of a bitch.
I thought it was pretty funny. Poltergeist, nominated for 3 Academy Awards, did not walk away with not a one of them that year. So
again, horror doesn't get its due.
You know what? It was It was the bedroom scene with shit floating around the bedroom that looked terrible.
I'm gonna get to that actually.
I have that in my notes also.
Now,
they blew it.
What film swept all three of those categories away from Poltergeist that same year?
E.T.
You are correct. E.T. was the big winner that year. So, and Poltergeist score was done by Jerry Goldsmith, who's done tons of great scores over the years. And while Poltergeist was nominated, he was also nominated for 17 other Academy Awards.
Wow.
What, Jason?
I already know the answer.
You don't even know what I'm going to ask.
Oh, I know what you're going to ask.
Okay, what am I going to ask?
Let him answer it first.
Yeah, for which movie did he win the Academy Award for? Am I right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And it was the Yeoman.
You are correct.
Hey, nice work.
I told you it's Chainsaw Dave. We share a brain. I'm telling you.
See, that's what I got to do now is I just got to be able to stump Jason with trivia questions, and hope he did. So
I'm stupid.
No, because
what are you trying to say?
I'll just have to start doing.
Hello,
trivia
I'm playing too.
That are not related to the movie we're talking about, and just completely surprise Jason.
Well, the main reason is because me being a music guy, I actually wrote down the whole thing about Jerry Goldsmith and all the movies, and that's why.
Nice work, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for ruining my trivia segment there, Jason. You're a great guy.
That's right. I'm going to ruin it for you. I just wanted to get through it and show you that I knew what you were thinking. I got ESPN.
All right. Well, this was Jenny's pick this week, but unfortunately she's not here. I'll go ahead and get my nostalgia part of this the podcast started. This was a movie that came with connotations, I guess. You always heard about this movie being cursed. Whenever I was younger and was getting into watching these movies, you always heard about the fact that Heather O'Rourke passed away while she was making these movies. So there was always something, the fact that this movie is a ghost movie about dead people and all that good stuff, like that just all played into the hype around the Poltergeist series. So that's really what I remember the most about Poltergeist is all the shit that came around with it. I didn't see the second sequel too much. I did watch it. The third one I watched quite a bit, which is not good.
No, it's bad.
And it's bad even considering there's a really good cast there, like Tom Skerritt, Nancy Allen, what's her name from Twin Peaks? I can't remember her name right now, but there's a whole bunch of pretty big stars in that movie for the time. Yeah, that movie could not pull off what it was going for at all. But as far as this movie goes for you guys, like, tell me about it a little bit. Eric, you said you got to this one pretty late in life. Tell me about it. Did you hear about it when you were a kid? Was it anything you were ever interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I was aware of it. I was always aware of it. I remember the rumors about Heather O'Rourke, and I don't remember exactly the details. Obviously, we've talked about watching cursed films and kind of getting up to speed on where some of this stuff came from and what's true and what's not. That episode on this is great. But at the time, yeah, I remember being a kid and thinking, yeah, that girl died. Like, that's all I really knew. And it was like, that was creepy. And then also she looks very much like my cousin at the time, like my female cousin, little blonde girl, bangs, like looked so much like her. And it's funny now, she has a daughter and her daughter looks the same way, like same look. It's but I remember that. I think that freaked me out a little bit that she looked so much like my cousin, who was almost like a sister to me, like we spent a lot of time together, we grew up together. So something, maybe that connection kept me away from this movie longer than it normally would have. But yeah, it was a while till I came back to it, and I retroactively love it. I enjoyed it watching it for the first time a few years back, and yeah, it just fits right in there with the movies of the era and the Amblin stuff, even obviously.
Oh yeah, this has got the Amblin feel all over it.
But this feels very Amblin, and it just kind of, even though I didn't watch it as a kid, I can kind of file it into the Amblin folder with
Mhm.
everything else, and it fits in there nicely and little hole filled.
Right. Jason, what about you? Do you remember watching this as a kid?
Oh yeah, definitely did. My mom loved this movie. Like I said, both of our moms kind of brought us into the horror world of movies, but this is definitely one of her favorites. And it was I didn't see it in the theater. I was 5.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a rental regularly and on HBO. It played on HBO, the whole Saturday night movie thing a lot. It's seen here and there. But I mean, growing up, I mean, I remember seeing it as a child, but then you don't start talking about it with friends until you're like in junior high. And all these little myths about the movie, about the little girl died and this, but they were talking about it and they hadn't even made like part 2 and 3 yet. And that there was something strange about the little girl and all these myths and stuff like that. And then, I mean, you learn later that she did die. I think it was when they were making part 3.
Yeah, it was during part 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a misdiagnosed thing, that how she died.
Well, I think another thing that goes along with this is the sister in this one, the one who plays her sister. She was actually murdered.
Yeah, Dominique Dunn.
Yeah,
she was killed by I believe an abusive boyfriend or something like that. So you had that tied into it. So that's, like I said, all your buddies who watch horror movies like, this movie's fucking cursed, dude. This happened, and it's definitely had its feel to it when you watched it because of all this that goes on. Like after Heather O'Rourke died later, when you still go back and watch it, you still have all this in your head as a kid and all your buddies talking about it. But yeah, it's definitely a creepy movie as a kid to watch. I have some different feelings about it today as being older and seen it so many times, but it's still a good little creepy movie. And I enjoyed part 2. A lot of people forget about it, but I mean, we get the creepy preacher guy in part 2.
I watched part 2 after watching it, and I don't remember really anything about it except for the creepy preacher.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing I can remember.
And I started like trying to get these movies to mesh together as I was like in that age, and I would run them together, and I'm like, wait, he's not in this one. The Indian guy's in this part 2 with the creepy preacher guy and the tequila worm.
See, Jenny and I did a marathon of all of them a few years back, and yeah, like I said, I wasn't really familiar with part 2 as much as I am 1 and 3, and part 2 is just so weird for me, like all the Indian stuff, and it's a very different feel from the first movie.
Dude, you're reminding me of the Indian stuff now. It's coming back. Yeah, that shit was weird.
Yeah, it's just.
But I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I need to watch it again. It's been a few years, but I do remember being a little perplexed by everything that was happening in that movie.
I mean, just the creepy preacher guy. Like, he got the whole world. Yeah. And you're like, God, creepy preacher guy.
I think that's probably the biggest misconception about this movie is the fact that, I mean, people associate him with Poltergeist, and he wasn't in this movie. It's a lot like Friday the 13th. People think Jason's been the killer. No, his mom was the killer. It's one of those sort of things.
Yeah, because you'll see like artwork, not just for this movie, but the Poltergeist series, and it's always a picture of Carol Ann and the creepy preacher guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he wasn't even in part 1, but he's a figure that stood out in the series. So, and he shows up in part 3.
I mean, to be fair, there's a couple of skeletons in this movie that look a lot like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they look better. They look better than he does.
Right.
Well, because they were real. Remember,
they look healthier. Yes, the skeletons were real.
Yeah, that's another urban legend about this is the skeletons were real, and
which is true.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to jump into from the get-go with this one is the way this movie starts. It starts off with the Star-Spangled Banner coming away from the TV. I am very curious for anybody that would be watching this today, like especially like 20-somethings or even teenagers. Like, do they even know what the hell is happening at the beginning of this movie? Like, do they understand that TV used to go off the air?
Yeah. No, they don't. No, I'm sure they don't. Yeah, it was just like, show's over.
Yeah.
I mean, the day is over. I mean, we're not watching any more TV, but it's funny you said that. A friend of ours was dating a substantially younger lady at the time, and there was a movie that had white noise like on the TV, And we're like, oh, the white noise, and literally looks over. What's white noise? What's static on the T? And I'm like, that what you just said reminded me of that conversation. So yes, they would have no fucking clue what it means to hear the Star Spangled Banner, and this ends our broadcast day.
Yeah. We're done till the morning news comes on.
Like 5 a.m., something like that.
Hey, off topic, but my daughter the other day, we were going through the drive-thru and getting some fast food, and she was like, "Did they have drive-thru when you were a kid?"
No, we drove up and it come out of roller skates.
I'm like, Scarlett, that's from like the 50s or something. Come on now. I'm not that old.
Wow. Dude, yeah, because you were born in the 80s at that. I mean, come on, but she thought you were born in 1958.
It's just funny how their brains work. There's some things they just consider to be, old, and they can't determine between what's 40 years old and what's 60 years old. It's all old, just old.
Right. There are a couple of instances in this movie that I thought about that, and I'll get to them when I get to them in the notes as we talk about the movie. But that was the first big one that came to mind. And I'm also, being the fact that Eric is the only dad on the show and he does have a daughter, there are a few things I kind of want to ask about that once we start getting into some of the movie a little bit too, with the older daughter. But as we get introduced into the beginning of this movie, we start with the dog going around room to room, and he's getting a fucking feast.
Dude, he's eating everything.
I love the dog. He's just checking on everybody. They're all peaceful. I like this opening.
Yeah. Well, he's checking on them because they leave food for him.
Well, that's too. He's getting some snacks along the way, but he's checking on them. He still cares.
There's a good one, for instance. Eric, have you ever found a bag of potato chips stashed under Scarlett's pillow?
Definitely. Honestly, Scarlett snacks in bed, and both kids have chips and all kinds of snacks all around their bed. Nothing unusual about that.
Half-eaten sandwich up under the edge of the bed, been there for about 2 months. It's all crustified, stuff like that.
One of my favorite things from the dog, I can't remember what his name is. It's a weird name. It's like
his name is E-Buzz.
E-Buzz. Now I didn't go into what that's all about, but that is a weird ass name.
E-Buzz is I think a reference to a Dan Aykroyd character on SNL that was like a pimp or something. But I mean, I assume that's the reference. E-Buzz is pretty specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a weird out of nowhere name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to look up his name because I was curious what's the dog's name. I couldn't figure it out from just watching.
Well, I saw, as we established in one of our episodes, I watch stuff with the subtitles on now, and I kept seeing E-Buzz on there, and I'm like, Dad, what kind of a name for a dog is that? One of my favorite scenes with E-Buzz is once we get introduced to the family and they're burying the parakeet, and as they're scooping the dirt on top of it, it cuts to him, and you just see him licking his chops.
I'm gonna fucking eat that bird when you go in the house. Snack time. Potato chips. You didn't leave me enough in the bag last night. I'm eating your dead bird.
And that makes you think, yeah, he's gonna go dig it up and eat it at one point. But the only other time you see that is whenever they're digging the hole for the pool, you see the cigar box pop out of the hole, which is weird because they were burying that box in the flower bed next to one of the windows of the house.
Yeah, why would they bury the box where the pool is going in?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a continuity error, I think.
It's foreshadowing.
Oh,
it's foreshadowing coffins rising from the ground.
Yes, I like it, Eric. You're doing good.
Wow, you just blew my mind, Eric. This opening scene with Carol Ann, though, I find her really creepy. Did anybody else find her really creepy?
No, I find her more like not a great actress.
Nah, I thought she did good for a 5-year-old. That's what she was playing.
Yeah, I can't blame a child actor for not being great, but like, I don't feel like she really turns in like an amazing performance here compared to some other things.
You're giving her crap. What about the kid who played Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars 1?
He sucks too.
He sucks too, but he was a child.
Yeah, he was a child. It's not fair to make these kids act, but we can't have little people playing all our children in movies,
That's
so you
true.
gotta.
Well, here, Mr. Trivia, who was originally going to play Carol Ann, but they wanted a more angelic face.
I have no idea.
Drew Barrymore.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Well, she was too
Little
busy
on the
doing
nose.
E.T. because
Exactly.
that was the thing with, okay, here's the big thing about Steven Spielberg working on this movie, and we'll go ahead and get this out of the way now. He was under contract to do E.T. He was doing E.T. at the same time, came out the same year, all that good stuff. The neighborhood that they're shooting Poltergeist in looks a lot like the neighborhood from E.T. too.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was contractually obligated to not be directing anything else. So therefore, that's where a lot of this urban myth, legend, whatever you want to call it, with him ghost directing this movie over Tobe Hooper comes from. And, you know, I've read a lot of articles since I knew we were doing this movie about the back and forth on that. And Tobe Hooper has never been like, oh, Spielberg took my movie, or that's not my movie, it's Spielberg's. And Spielberg hasn't said anything about Tobe Hooper. He said Tobe was a great director. It's just a lot of speculation that people have, but you see a lot of Steven Spielberg in this movie because he did write it. He wrote the screenplay, he wrote the story. So, I mean, it is a Steven Spielberg movie in a lot of senses.
I mean, it certainly looks like a Spielberg directed movie.
Well, the digging I was doing on it, I read a few articles where there was actually lawsuits brought against the movie company who did this for not giving Tobe Hooper his due with this movie. I think they ended up having to pay him. It was like a union thing with the film union out in Hollywood. They had to pay him some money because even at the end of the movie, the first credit you see, a Steven Spielberg film. You don't get a Tobe Hooper film because he directed it. But I think a lot of this comes from that you read. It was the actors who worked on this movie saying, well, Steven Spielberg directed me while I was here. And Tobe Hooper, that's where I think a lot of the confusion is that Steven Spielberg might have told this person, hey, do it this way, because they said he is the only producer who was too much in the movie. He wanted to have so much control over it.
I mean, he's a director that's a producer. And he's there and he's getting involved. So you're going to see some of his influence there.
Yeah. But I just think it kind of took it away from Tobe Hooper, and I kind of feel sorry for the guy. I mean,
poor guy.
Well, I mean, there's the biggest thing I read was Zelda Rubinstein. She and Hooper apparently didn't get along very well on set. And there's a lot of talk about how Spielberg directed the days she was there and things like that. You can definitely make an argument for Spielberg's influence over this movie because Tobe Hooper's never made anything quite like this after this. He didn't do anything like this before. So that's another thing too, is Tobe Hooper seems to have his own little style. Some of it good, some of it bad.
Good, like Life Force.
Bad,
Eric went ahead and took it away from Jason.
He fucking had to say it. He said it. I was going to say bad like Life Force.
Both. Good like Life Force, bad like Life Force. Carry on,
wrong.
Josh.
Carry on.
But
he's wrong.
But yeah, I mean, that's really the gist of where all that comes from. Now, as far as the movie goes, I mean, whoever directed it, whatever, it's a great movie. I mean, I'll give anybody their due. Anybody's name that's on this movie gets props because this turned out really well. So that's really just all I wanted to say about the production of this. I mean, that's really a lot of what people talk about nowadays. It seems like that's overshadowed the cursed part of this movie is who directed it. So,
right.
Well, as far as we're concerned, Tobe Hooper directed it. It just was produced by Steven Spielberg, so he had kind of final say so.
Yeah. And, you know, this movie begins also with some more E.T. vibes of riding the bike through the neighborhood. Like, I saw this guy riding down the street with this case of beer in his arm. Like, I vividly remember being a kid. Like, you guys rode your bikes to the grocery store and carried way too much than you should have on the front of your bike.
Sometimes another person.
Yeah.
But those kids on the block were fucking dicks, man. They like gunned straight for him just to knock him off the bicycle.
With those remote control cars, man, they're like accurate with that shit. I mean, I couldn't do that when I was a kid. I don't think I knew anybody that was that good with a remote control car. But I mean, it's kind of cool. We get it. Like you said, we're trying to have this wholesome family environment of this neighborhood. And the guy shows up with the beers. He's running in the house because we don't know what's going on, but he's going to go watch football with the guys. And that's why he's trying to. And like you said, this totally lays out a standard suburban neighborhood. Like nothing bad is going to happen here. We're going over on Sunday to watch the Rams and Saints game. We're chilling. We got beer squirting everywhere. I mean, damn. The one thing I'm trying to he walks in this guy's house and there's beer going everywhere. And you don't even give a fuck.
It's spraying all over the damn house.
Yep. Yeah, that is weird. But Yeah, this is just your average house. That's the idea. This is your average American family in a housing development where all the houses look the same.
Yep.
And everyone's there, and it could happen to you. This isn't some weird house on the hill. This is like your normal everyday.
It's
house.
not the last house on the left.
Right.
So,
and we find out that Craig T. Nelson's character is part of the company that develops this land and builds the houses and whatnot. So easy little bit of storytelling there. They don't force it upon you. It's not like exposition like Nolan style. You get this through casual conversation. Which brings me to my next would anybody know what's going on here is the TV remotes. Like,
oh geez, yeah.
I would imagine
TV remotes. I've never run into that.
Like, I grew up in at that time, and I remember those specific TVs and remote controls. I do not remember any kind of instance where somebody was on the same remote.
Well, that's kind of what they're going for. Yeah, well, that's
like,
kind of, but see, but where you grew up, Josh, and like probably I did. I mean, even where you grew up, you probably were still a little closer or whatever. They were far enough away. But when literally they have no yard, you're basically divided by a fence. I mean, and the TVs are on the same side of each other's house. I could probably see that because they were all based on a frequency back then. And if your frequency is the same as his, you hit up. It's his TV and your TV are going to go up.
Yeah.
If anything, it's an effort to show how close their houses are together.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it could work or not, it's an effort to show. Listen, we're all packed in here. This is a development full of houses. We're trying to make money, trying to make as many houses as we can. And
it makes for a good scene, I think, because I'm giggling a little bit when they're going back and forth, clicking each other's TVs.
You get to know the family through all this too. You get
Yeah.
you see the boy, then you see the dad, then you see the sister, and you're kind of learning about the family as it goes through here.
Which they're raising the kid, the boy, right, because this kid's got Star Wars all over his room. He's got a fucking Alien poster hanging up in his room.
well, hey, like you said, again, Spielberg and his buddy is Lucas.
Yep.
So therefore, we got Star Wars everywhere.
So how does it tie to Ridley Scott? That's my question, because there is an Alien poster hanging up. Somebody from Alien had to have worked on this.
But also, like kids, I mean, I remember this with like a little brother, a little sister, but Eric, she's devastated, the bird. And then, can we get a goldfish?
Yeah.
I am so mortally wounded. My emotions are destroyed. I want a goldfish and I'll be happy.
Yeah. Forgot about it. The mom goes through all this stuff to make her feel better, and then it's gone in a moment. I like when the mom gets caught trying to flush the bird.
Yeah.
And then they have to go through with a proper burial because she couldn't.
And Jenny was like, "You don't flush a bird."
That's like the biggest bird you can flush. Like,
yeah,
bird gets any bigger, you're not flushing it. Bird gets any bigger, you're gonna eat it.
Yeah. Hey, we have that conversation here. We got some pretty good sized pigeons and squabs out here. Yeah. Walking Dead Days coming around. That's on freaking, bird on platter. We're eating that damn thing.
Yeah.
So, but
fire up the Traeger.
I want to talk about the parents here a little bit. You got Jo Beth Williams as the mom and Craig T. Nelson as the dad. I think I may have mentioned Craig T. Nelson on the show a long time ago, maybe not, but Craig T. Nelson always plays the coolest dad. And I'm always just, anytime I see Craig T. Nelson in anything, I'm like, God, I wish he was my dad. The movie The Family Stone, he's really good in that, and that's usually the one where I'm like, damn it. But in knowing his political standing and whatnot,
that sours it a little. But
I was like, well, he's a good actor because he's making me believe
he is. I mean, I loved Coach. My dad
love Coach, man.
My dad was a high school football coach for like 30 or 40 years, so Coach was like a big show in our house because it was just obviously a big hit, and I always liked him in that, and he's great as Mr. Incredible. He's a great actor, and I like him in this too.
And he was on a show on NBC called Parenthood, which was really good.
What a dad.
I really like them here as the parents, though, and my favorite thing with them is them in the bedroom, and he's rolling the joint on the bed.
Oh, both of them, dude. Yeah, they're both smoking it up.
I noticed, though, if you watch Craig T. Nelson, he's rolling the joint, and he's not paying attention to what he's doing. And if you look, he's rolling, and then the weed falls out of the paper.
He makes a gigantic mess and just leaves it there.
And he just throws it all in the box and throws it back to her and has her.
Yeah,
do it.
they are reckless.
Yeah.
It is fun to give you a moment with them, like not being mom and dad, just them being like a couple.
And they're stoned out of their fucking minds.
And he's being silly with like all the diving stuff.
Oh no, I like the stomach thing. It's here. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's here.
Before
it's gone.
and after.
Yeah, before and after. Yeah, that shit's fucking hilarious. I mean, it is like they're so far into this movie, they're doing a great job. As this is a nice, wholesome family.
Mhm.
We all love each other. They're great. You know, there might be
they humanize them too. Like,
oh yeah,
they feel, and that's a very Spielberg thing. You know, thinking of E.T. for instance, like this family feels like the E.T. family and very, you know, a lot. And, you know, maybe the Hooper is where the weed comes in. You know, you don't have the weed without Hooper, but, but it is kind of a nice, like humanizing thing. It's maybe a little controversial, but they're not perfect. They're just people. They're not, it's not, you know, Ward Cleaver or whatever, you know, you've got, you know, these are real people. It humanizes them in a great way where everyone feels very natural.
Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes with them is when they've noticed that there's stuff going on in the house, and they go over to the neighbor's house and start asking if anything weird's going on. This entire time they're talking to the neighbor they've just, they're giggling like, it happens in a weird place because I feel like are they over there talking to them stoned or what? But this is after everything's been discovered with the chair that's moving back and forth in the kitchen and everything, and she's been letting it move her across the kitchen and everything. And they're talking about the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes are bad, and they're like jittery and everything the whole time. And there's this particular part where Jo Beth Williams slaps herself that had me laughing so hard.
So were they cursed? Is that why they were getting mosquitoes real bad?
That was going to be my question. Is it because of the haunting stuff?
I think so, because the other guy was like, I haven't noticed mosquitoes, and they're just getting bit up. I didn't notice that my first watch.
Yeah, me neither.
They say something about Carol Ann's light.
Her life force.
Yeah.
Yes. Her life force.
Life force. They were drawn to her life force.
X-Force?
X-Men? What? Carol Ann's a mutant?
Yeah, she talks to the dead. And she could go into a TV.
Basically, this movie goes from 0 to 90 in the drop of a dime. Like, they give you a good little establishment of the family, the neighborhood, and there's something weird going on in the house. And then all of a sudden, when this storm kicks in, this movie just fucking kicks it into overdrive. You've got the tree eating the kid.
Oh man, that is gnarly. Like, dude, when he's like swallowing the kid and the tree's swallowing him.
I find that tree creepier than that fucking clown in his room, to be honest with you. Like,
and that was the notes I had about the clown, because we skipped ahead. But the thing with the clown, I mean, I'm not scared of clowns, but I know from a number of people in my life say that clown is what traumatized them to the point of where they hate clowns.
Right.
That, not Pennywise, which that came later, but that one clown is what ruined them for clowns the rest of their life. Yeah,
it's pretty creepy. When the clown attacks, it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, because the face changes.
Yeah. And I always get a little confused when I'm watching this because, the tree attacks the kid first, and I'm always expecting that clown to lash out. And that doesn't happen till later in the movie. I always get confused about that.
Yeah, the third ending of the movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, the shot of the tree eating the kid is awesome. Carol Ann getting sucked into the closet, that's crazy. And, I mean, you've got all this crap going on. This movie never fails of reminding me of old Eddie Murphy stand-up, though. And if you've seen Eddie Murphy Delirious, you know what I'm talking about.
I was watching Poltergeist last month. I got a question. Why don't white people just leave the house when there's a ghost in the house? I would have been in the house and said, oh, baby, this is beautiful. We got a chandelier hanging up here, kids outside playing. It's a beautiful neighborhood. We ain't got nothing to worry. I really love them. This is really nice. Get out. Too bad we can't stay, baby.
And it always reminds me of that when I watch this or Amityville Horror. It's just like,
yeah. Well, what I want to know is, I grew up in Texas. You guys in Florida, we get tornadoes. I don't ever hear about tornadoes out in freaking Southern California. I mean, no. I don't hear about it. And here we are. That's what caused all this is a tornado. It had nothing to do with the dad, Steven, crawling up the tree and seeing his kid going inside of a tree that looked like a mouth.
Yeah.
But he just disregards that. It was a storm. They like, oh no, it was the tornado that did it all. Because Dana, the older daughter, look, it was a tornado, you know, and they discount it. And then while they're doing this, we know that the reason that this happened with the ghost is because they were distracting to go after Carol Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Which, right. And what's funny, all right, we're talking about a kid, a 5-6-year-old. When I was reading this stuff about this movie, I mean, it's a scary movie for a kid. She said that nothing in the movie scared her except for that scene when she was holding on to that and the fans were going and it was trying to suck her in the closet. She said that was the only scene in the whole movie that scared her.
Wow.
Well, I mean, just thinking of things that were scary to me as a kid. And one of them was my closet. Anyone can relate to that. If you had a closet that was partially open, you're looking into the dark corner.
You just reminded me of Lost Boys, where she's like, I think the reason me and your father got divorced is because you never believed in the closet monster.
Yeah, that, I mean, a tree out of the window is definitely can be creepy at night, like a tree like tapping the window with the
the design of that particular tree is nuts. I mean, it looks like a demon looking out that kid's window. Like it looks like it has eyes and a mouth and everything. Like it's a great design for a creepy tree.
It gives me Evil Dead vibes, honestly. You know,
yeah,
you got
big time.
Some evil trees going on in there. And then also the clown, like a little doll in your room. Like dolls have always been creepy. That big old clown sitting there just like pointing right at him, just watching him all night while he sleeps.
Right.
Like classic setup for just like, do you not want these kids to sleep ever? You know,
right.
Put some first of all, put some blinds on the window. This thing is wide open.
Yeah.
This poor kid's got to look out at this menacing tree all night long. You've got a giant clown sitting in a chair just staring at him all night long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God.
I was just like, put the clown in the closet. Why you have it sitting there on a chair?
Yeah.
Like you got a whole closet right there. Just throw it in there if it scares you that bad.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, this brings us to our first segment. Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her.
Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name?
That guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
For any of our new listeners out there, this is the segment where we recognize character actors in the background roles of the movies we've watched. Tonight, we're talking about the background characters in Poltergeist. First person I found was one of the pool construction guys, Sonny Landham.
He looked familiar, but I can't remember what I've seen him from.
Okay, you got to go back and check this guy out. Is Sonny Landham? He played Billy in Predator. The guy. Yeah.
Damn, that's a good one, Josh.
Billy in Predator. He was also in 48 Hours and Action Jackson. We got to do Action Jackson on the show one day. So, who wants to go next?
I have a decent one.
Okay, go for it.
The guy who rides his bike up in the beginning with the beer and smashes his balls.
Uh-huh.
That's Dirk Blocker.
Uh-huh.
Who is, to me, most notoriously Hitchcock from Brooklyn
Nine-Nine. Yep. When he ran in the house, I was like, that dude looks so familiar. Who the hell is that dude? And I actually had to Wikipedia him, and I was like, no, like that dude on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like the age thing, like he's too, like he looks too old in this movie to be Hitchcock in Brooklyn Nine-Nine now, but he damn sure is that guy.
Yeah, and apparently also in Prince of Darkness, which I didn't realize, and Starman. So,
wow, Carpenter, yeah,
pretty wild.
Yeah,
Old
that was
Hitchcock.
the one that I found that was like, wow, I can't believe that dude's in this movie. So with those two, I think I might know who Jason's gonna pick. Jason, did you?
Okay, well, I've read your mind through the whole show, so you tell me who I'm picking.
Did you pick James Cameron?
Nope.
Wow. Okay, I did. So who's Almost Famous for you?
My almost famous is going to be. Oh God, where the hell did he go?
Oh, for Christ's sake!
I lost him, dude.
You went last. You had this whole time to find your shit.
No, I
This
had
guy
it.
is not prepared.
Oh, there
this
it
is when too many notes comes back to
Yeah,
bite you.
dude. I got so many fucking notes here.
You gotta give some visual hierarchy. Let me help you as a designer. Like, you need section headers. You need
I need highlighters.
just write almost famous and underline it with your pencil or pen or fucking charcoal or whatever goddamn shit you're using.
I pricked my finger. I do it with blood.
And then you can easily find it because it says almost famous and it's underlined.
Actually, I normally do that. I write AF next to the name. I forgot to do that this week. So,
well, you're stupid, AF.
Who did you say I was gonna pick?
I predict that you're gonna pick James Cameron.
Yeah, you are correct.
I love James Cameron, great director.
Yeah, James Cameron. I'm going with that because he's our good.
And I know why. I know why. Return of the Living Dead.
1 and 2.
1 and 2. Yep. Same character who dies in both movies.
He dies in both movies, but he returns for part 2.
And Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
In Pursuit of Happiness.
Dude, The Unborn, Nixon, All the President's Men. He's actually been in some pretty good movies. So I say, if you're going for almost famous, the guys you're talking about, I don't think anybody recognizes him. This guy has a pretty recognizable face.
I've got one more.
Billy from Predator is pretty recognizable for me, anyway. I don't know about the general public.
Yeah.
But Eric, who's your other one?
My other one I found on IMDb, and maybe this is something everyone knows about, but I didn't know it. Skeleton. There's the actor. There's an actor called Skeleton on IMDb. Have you guys heard of this? Or?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he's listed as an actor. It says he's got a bio. He's got a bio. It says his gravestone did not have rest in peace inscribed and was drafted into Skeleton War, fighting bravely in the Army of Darkness till his death fighting Jason and the Argonauts, running off a cliff and sinking into the ocean, later regrouping with Jack Skellington in a haunting shipwreck. Eventually, the war ended, and he decided to become. Oh, hold on, I have to click to read more.
You know what's funny? That's exactly what I was going to go with. That skeleton guy. You know, he was in Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah. So basically, there's an acting credit for just Skellington. There's an actor.
Skeleton. Okay, I that's my vote, dude. I recognize that guy everywhere. Skeleton.
And he has quite a filmography here.
Yeah.
Okay, almost famous this week. Skeleton.
Skeleton.
Or if you want somebody that you can actually recognize, I guess James Cameron would be the biggest one on the list.
The biggest non-big.
Yeah, the biggest almost famous actor here.
Yeah,
although if you're a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, yeah, you probably recognize Dirk Blocker.
Dirk Blocker.
He's hilarious on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I haven't seen the whole series, but what I have seen, like him and what's the other cop that he's always with? Scully. Those two are hilarious. Yeah. My next point I want to get to at this movie is how much time has passed between the incident and when Craig T. Nelson goes to get the paranormal investigators. There's definitely a time gap here. Like, they say it, like he's taken time off of work, he's been great, blah, 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 blah. But like they never establish exactly how much time they waited to go to these paranormal people.
Long enough to get a 5 o'clock shadow.
And he looks like shit.
He looks
terrible.
Like complete shit.
Black circles around his eyes.
But not so long that people are starting to wonder where Carolyn is. But you don't have the cops knocking at the door. Like it's been there. They said she has the flu or something, right? So that's
they
their
all
cover.
have the flu.
Yeah, they all have the flu. So I mean, that can buy you maybe 2 weeks.
So is this where
Max?
So they could have used coronavirus to their advantage here.
Yeah, we got a quarantine. We got that Rona.
But when they go to the paranormal people, this is one thing that I'm a little confused on. I mean, I love the scene where they're taking them through the house. And they get upstairs to Carol Ann's room, and that guy's talking about, oh, I once watched this thing make a complete circle within 72 hours or some shit.
Right, you couldn't see it move.
Yeah, and Craig T. Nelson's facial expression, he just looks at him and he's like,
oh, okay.
Cool, bro.
He's like,
and they open the door to some of the worst visual effects in this movie, in my opinion. Like,
it would have looked better. It would have looked better if they just hung it from a string.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
blatantly obvious.
The compositing here, or whatever is going on, it looks like complete shit.
Yeah.
This is the worst shot in the film.
That's the day Spielberg showed up. He shot that scene. See, if Tobe Hooper would have done it, it would have been better.
Like in Life Force.
All right.
No, Texas Chainsaw Massacre better.
But one thing I do like, though, I like that, so many of these ghost story movies and stuff like that, people are desperately trying to prove that shit is happening, and it won't do it when they want it to, right? They, like the victims are trying to show someone, and it doesn't work.
It's like in the Conjuring movies, they're trying to make them believe that shit's going on. All this, no, here, look in the fucking door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this skips all that. You don't have to worry about trying to prove something. It's all right there. Like you just say, here, look, boom. And that's like pleasant as a movie watcher to not have to deal with that frustration of.
And I love that they focus on the investigators too. Like they go straight to the female's hands, and she's shaking, picking up the tea, and yeah, I mean, Dr. Lesh is just like freaked out. The males are freaked out. I think it's Dr. Casey, or maybe it's I don't remember which one's which, but one of the two guys, the white guy, he doesn't end up coming back later.
Yeah, that's Casey. That's Dr. Casey.
Can you blame him?
No, I can't.
That scene, dude.
Yeah.
That scene doesn't feel like Spielberg to me.
No, it doesn't. That's definitely where I think Tobe Hooper had to come in and play with some of the gore effects. Now, I remember this scene really scarring me when I first saw this, but watching it now, it doesn't look that great, in my opinion.
Oh, it does not hold up.
I disagree. I mean, does it look real? No, but is it creepy as hell? Yes. And especially in a PG movie, even as like a PG-13 movie, like somebody peeling their face off in the sink, all the bits falling into the sink. Something about that scene is unsettling, and it's probably the face peeling off part. But it's not just that. It's pieces falling into the sink. It's how quickly it happens. It happens so quickly. I don't know. There's that scene is gnarly and feels almost out of place in this movie, honestly.
Yeah. I think the most horrifying part of the whole thing is the waste of the New York strip on the counter that starts boiling and coming. That's a good cut of meat.
Okay,
and just totally gone.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. You start with the meat, and
I like that part where
maggots
it's just like
on the chicken.
Yeah, it's just coming up.
It's gross.
How does it taste? How does it taste, Michael? You're eating maggots.
The most unnerving part about this scene for me is, Eric, imagine if I just walked into your house, was like, hey, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go grab a snack, and I just went in your fridge, grabbed a steak, grabbed a pan, just and who the fuck keeps a steak in their fridge with nothing on it, or like not in a Tupperware or something? He literally just grabs a steak out of the fridge.
I actually had that in my notes. Like, who fucking does this?
Yeah,
I wonder if that's an antiquated thing, like just leaving stuff in the fridge uncovered. Like, if we've gotten more aware of germs over the years,
probably.
And how to preserve our food longer so we don't have to throw it away.
Considering what happens to that steak, they probably should have been a little more considerate of it too. I mean, it's walking across the fucking counter.
Yeah. I was like, is that Pittsburgh blue? Because that fucker's still, hey, my steak is still moving. It's undercooked. It's moving across the counter. It's a little under.
Yeah.
They should have called Dr. Venkman so he could come investigate, throw some eggs on the counter. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that made me think they just need to call fucking Ghostbusters and they'll be fine.
Not that time, dude. We're only in 1982. There are no Ghostbusters yet. So sorry. Get your shit right, Josh. We already done that movie.
We're 2 years away.
But yeah, I mean, that whole scene, I mean, like when I was a kid, it disturbed me. But yeah, when you watch it now, you're like, whoa, that is so bad. As far as the way the face looks.
It looks bad in the movie, in my opinion. The effects work is really good. The thing that I'm most bothered about with it is I can really tell that the head is not connected to the body and that it's arms behind a dummy pulling. Like, if they would have just spent a little more time on that stuff, I think it would have looked a lot better. But for the time, 1982, and what was happening, I'm sure that shit grossed everybody out and blew everybody's minds. Just watching it now, it shows its age a little bit, and that's the biggest reason I complain about it.
I mean, we go from that, okay, we're talking about it not holding up, to the next scene where Dr. Mitchell, he's running the cameras and the camera moves.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that is a great scene with the freaking mist and then like the little tentacle arm coming out and then the little orbs, and then you realize it's an actual like a figure coming down the stairs and all that stuff. Dude, that is a great visual effect.
Mm-hmm.
All those effects that are like that, where it's like a specter or like a those look really great. And those are the shots that look great in Ghostbusters too. Like,
I was about to say, those shots remind me of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like it's the same, whatever, the same technique. I don't know enough about special effects to do that, to speak on it, but it holds up great. Those effects look great.
Yeah. Now, I do like when all of this goes down, it freaks everybody out. You've got everybody kind of camping out in the living room for the night. I love the conversation between Jo Beth Williams and the doctor. How she says, I'm absolutely terrified. I'm sorry. And then this whole scene really reminded me a lot of the Indianapolis dialogue in Jaws, which ding, 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 Spielberg. But I kind of got a lot of Jaws vibes off of this, how she's telling, the boy that, some people don't cross over. Some people don't really realize they're dead, all of that stuff. I think all of that stuff is really good here. And even after all this stuff goes down, I like Craig T. Nelson when they're talking about getting the kids out and nobody's going to be in the house. And he says, I'm not leaving anybody in this house alone. Like, that really gets me on Craig T. Nelson's side as the dad in this movie. Because he's like, I'm not going to let anybody spend any time in this house by themselves.
I got to say, though, I don't like the ladies. You talked about Quint's story. Mm-hmm. I feel like the better example of Quint's story is Zelda later, or whatever. What's her? That's the actress's name. What's her character's name?
Tangina.
Tangina. I think Tangina. I think Tangina's. I don't know. That lady's story feels. I like her story more than this story. I think they could both be viewed as the Quint, analog here.
Well, she kind of is the Quint character. She comes in to save the day. Hey, I'll kill the shark, blah, blah, blah. She comes in, I'll clean the house.
Yeah, so. I mean, we've got our introduction to Tangina here, and it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie, too, because she's going through the house, asking about things, and I'm on Craig T. Nelson's side as a dad, but when she comes in and starts coming through the house, you can see on his face that he just does not. He's like, "This is fucking ridiculous. What are we doing?" And when she asks a question, they're like, "Answer her," and he goes, "I am," with my mind. I think that scene's so fucking funny, dude.
I think the casting of there for Tangina, what's her name? Stupid.
Zelda Rubinstein.
Zelda Rubinstein. Thank you. It's perfect because she's so strange and so bizarre, and she comes in and she's half the height of everyone, and she's got this tiny voice, and she's just these giant glasses. Like, she just comes in and it's just such a change from everyone we've seen so far. The other paranormal people are all kind of not really noteworthy. Mm-hmm. As far as personality or visually or anything. They're very quote unquote normal looking and behaving, and she comes in and she's just so strange looking and so strange sounding. Like, it's just a great addition to the film to bring in it's just a great bit of casting to get someone that's interesting and not just cast like a normal normal.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we're talking about her, but I was want to go back to the scene right before it because of Mr. Foreshadowing down here, who didn't even bring it up, is when Mr. Teague shows up and takes Steven to where they're going to build phase 5. And they're sitting there talking, hey, what about a bay window right here? And then they turn around, cemetery. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we've done it before. Oh, okay. And I'm like, why? How can Mr. Foreshadowing miss this whole scene of this movie? Because that's it right there.
I struggle with the chronology of things. I'm just talking. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's we're learning there about the burial ground. We're learning that, you know, people were buried in this area. And
we've mentioned, you know, they bring in Tangina to quote unquote clean the house. I want to play a clip of her here, and it's a great scene between her and Jo Beth Williams. So
your daughter is alive and in this house.
And I like the music when it comes in here. It's a great scene.
Jo Beth Williams' best performance in the movie.
Yeah, she really sells it.
She's excellent.
Location? I get my strongest feeling. The point of origin is in the child's closet upstairs.
Yes, I believe that.
Honey, you're gonna be strong for me and for your daughter. I could do absolutely nothing without your faith in this world and your love for the children.
I will. Believe me, I will.
And will you do anything I ask, even if it comes contrary to your beliefs as a human being and a Christian?
Yes, I promise, please.
Well, then I'll just need your credit card and 3 easy payments of $39.99, please.
That would have been so good if you would have done that. Sham wow.
That's literally all I thought when that scene was playing. I was like, and now's when she's going to sell it. Now's when she's going to sell it. All I need is a credit card and 3 easy payments. But no, I mean, all kidding aside, I really do like that scene. I like that she comes across as, I'm here to do business, and, you know, you have to disregard your beliefs, whether it's you're a Christian or anything like that. Like, I love the way she sets that up.
Yeah. It was funny as we're talking about Tangina's character as a short stature old lady. I actually work with a lady that is exactly her height and talks just like that.
Wow.
And
lucky.
She's like 70 something years old, but I don't work with her very often because she's retired. But now that when I watched this movie recently and was going through that, I'm like, oh my God, I work with Tangina. I want to get her some big glasses and tell her to put her hair up in a bun. So,
but when we get Tangina in the movie, we get some great lines out of her, and that brings us to our next segment.
You're going to need a bigger quote.
This is a bigger quote. This is where we highlight some of our favorite quotes from the movie, big or small. But first, Jason gives us the taglines. Jason, go for it.
All right. Well, we're going to play a little game this week. Is guess who wrote the shitty tagline?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, we have a few here, but the new part of the game is I inserted my own taglines.
Okay.
And you guys tell me which one that I wrote that's probably shitty.
Way to have faith in yourself.
He's like, I'm on this. I'm going to rip Jason a new asshole right here. Bring it on, Mr. Life Force hater. But all right, let's say from a dimension beyond the living, a terror to scare you to death.
I like that.
That
one.
is not Jason.
That is not Jason.
Okay. Because Eric's reading the taglines on IMDb right now.
I am not. I never cheat ever.
Okay. Nobody has complained until now. The first real ghost story. Mommy, Daddy, where are you?
That's gotta be Jason. Mommy, Daddy, where are you?
Questa Verde, a quiet family community. Only problem are the previous tenants.
That's Jason too.
So what do you think, guys? Well, Eric said that I wrote Mommy, Daddy, where are you?
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. I did not write
Damn it! God, that just seemed too terrible to be real. All right.
What do you think, Josh?
I may need you to read them again.
Oh, for God's sake. We don't have time for this.
I'm going to say the last one.
Which one? The Questa Verde one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I wrote it?
Yeah.
You are fucking correct.
Yeah. That would have been my second guess.
But I wrote the Questa Verde, a quiet family community. Only problem are the previous tenants. And then nobody has complained until now are the two I wrote.
Ah, nice.
I think they actually worked pretty good because
job,
I mean the other ones were Mommy, Daddy, Where Are You? They're Here, the first real ghost story, and then the From a Dimension Beyond the Living, a Terror to Scare You to Death. That's from the studio.
Right.
I actually think mine are better.
Studio one.
I was surprised you didn't say They're Here because I mean, like that's what's on the fucking. Well, the tagline on the front of my Blu-ray right here says "It knows what scares you." So
yeah,
there's all kinds of taglines for this fucking movie.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Actually, there were way more than this. I was not going to write them all down because I think every time they released it on a different format, I think they put a new tagline on it. I swear they had to have. But yeah. So
well, then I'll go ahead and throw the obvious one out there.
They're here.
And who doesn't say that? It doesn't matter if you did watch Poltergeist, you have heard it and you use that line in your everyday vocabulary.
Yep, that's in the zeitgeist for sure.
For sure.
All
right, who wants to go next?
The mom finds the bird and she says, "Oh shit, Tweety couldn't have waited for a school day."
All right, or mine, because we keep talking about Spielberg. You know what happens when you overfeed goldfish? They become sharks.
Dun, dun, dun. We were watching that and she said that to her and I looked at Jenny and I was like, she just lied to her child.
You know what happens when you overfeed goldfish? You flush them too.
I like when the kids are throwing food at the table and she says, or the boy says, "You're a big barf bag." I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This is later on, but you don't like it? You don't think it's kind of punk?
All right, yeah, with the white hair.
Yeah.
When Carol Ann passes through the mom, she says she went through my soul.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Jesus, Steve, you look like shit.
Yeah.
I like when they're talking to the female paranormal investigator and she says, "I'm absolutely terrified." I think she sells that pretty well. I like that Joe Beth Williams is laughing at her though. She's like, "You were so scared, your hands were shaking." Like she's just
She was probably smoking one before she could. You were so scared. You were so fucking terrified. But I like that one toward the end. "Drive away, Daddy, drive away."
Don't like when the mom is arguing with Tangina who should go, and she makes a good point, and Tangina goes,
"Because it's around my way! What do you think you're doing? I'm going in after her! Won't come to you! Let me go! You've never done this before! Neither have you! You're right, you go!
"You're right, you should go."
Yeah, me and Jenny
Totally just gave
You
up.
go or whatever. Yeah, you go. Yeah, you're right. You go. Also, when he confronts the developer guy and he says, "You son of a bitch, you left the bodies."
Yeah.
You know,
You moved the headstones. Yeah, that one's good. I like when he's going to confront that guy at the end when they decide they're leaving. He goes, "Oh, you know, Teague, you won't go to hell for an answer. I'm going to give him directions." I thought that was pretty clever. All right, so I've got a handful from Tangina here.
This house has many hearts.
And she,
There is no death. It's only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. Now hold on to yourselves.
the way she says that in the movie just cracks me up.
She gonna get a spanking.
I like your Tangina.
Thank you.
This house is clean.
I love how she fixes her fucking hair for the camera and
pulls her hair back, where it fell down.
But that's really all I've got.
We're now getting to the part where, like you said, they're gonna go into the closet, bust out tennis balls and rope, solves every ghost problem.
Mm-hmm.
I love the shot of Craig T. Nelson throwing the rope into the. There's one shot. It's one of my favorite shots of the movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like basically him throwing the rope into a bunch of light. It's kind of like close. Camera's close up behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, this is a question about the portal. We get this gooey shit when they drop it out, the tennis balls and stuff and the rope.
Mm-hmm.
You notice Dr. Mitchell, the first tennis ball?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, it's gooey. Let me smell it. Let me
Yeah, he
shove
smells it.
He liked the smell too.
Ectoplasm up his nose. He's like, oh man, I don't know. I don't smell good.
I'm telling you, dude, this movie is connected to Ghostbusters because that is the same shit that was flowing through the bottom of New York City in Ghostbusters 2. That fucking pink ectoplasm that's all over them when they come through the portal.
But dude, This is like that mixed with like
Jello,
like raw pork.
Oh God,
it's what it reminds me of, is like raw pork with just Jello gooey. It's because there's chunks coming out of it too. You're like, what the fuck? I know Tobe Hooper's not here anymore. We need to get this somebody. What the fuck was in the goo that was on the rope and on the balls and all that shit? Eric, what was on the balls?
What was on the balls?
I don't know. It was chunky. It could have been jello of some kind. I don't know. Some kind of goo. I don't know.
Were they fuzzy?
Yeah, they were tennis balls. They were very fuzzy.
Fuzzy goo covered balls. Straight from Eric, people. The man knows his balls.
So there's a point earlier in the movie where they say that the spirits won't let anybody in the room, and the one guy, the guy who tears his face off, goes upstairs. He attempts to go in the room, and when he comes down, he says something bit him.
Oh yeah, that was earlier. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and now when we're trying to get Carol Ann back through the portal here, and he's pulling the rope, you know, she's saying go towards the light, and he's like, you said not to go towards the light, and he starts pulling the rope back in. He pulls in this giant fucking skull-looking monster thing.
Yeah, that's rad.
Do we think that's what bit the guy when he?
I think it is.
The mouth is about the right size, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Because what did she say earlier? You know, she's with all these things, but then she talks about the not nice, the evil thing there, and they call him the beast. Is she referring to, like, quote unquote, the devil, Satan?
I mean, if you say the beast,
yeah, that's what I'm like.
It never feels like they're talking about the devil here, but yeah, the beast is a little.
When you refer to it, it's the beast.
But
you're
she's
like, well, what the fuck?
She's very vague, and I think she even says what you would refer to as the beast. She's tiptoeing around it, but I think she's talking about Satan himself. Lucifer.
Satan?
The
Satan?
devil? The devil. Don't go in there. That house is the devil.
Tennis balls of the devil.
Oh, that was another quote I had. Okay, here's another one where I had an out of context quote and I couldn't remember what it was. But when they throw the tennis balls in and the second one comes down, the guy goes, "Kiss my ass, number 2."
Number 2.
Number 2, or is it number 3 or number 4? We never.
No, we're not going. We're not going back to that conversation.
Come on, Reanimator. But
the giant skull reminds me of Evil Dead 2 as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I just thought of that. Yeah, good call, Eric.
And I have to make an amendment from our Evil Dead episode. I said that I thought that Evil Dead was the best one. I watched Evil Dead 2, and I texted Jason and Eric, so they already know. But I have to amend my statement. Evil Dead 2 is the best one.
Thank you for finally agreeing with me. I will not lead you astray in the Evil Dead series.
But I do enjoy the first one quite a bit.
Oh yeah, great. It's good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that freaking thing when the head comes out, dude, that Craig T. Nelson sold. I am scared shitless. I hope I had my oops, I crapped my pants on, because it just happened.
Oh, he definitely shit his pants.
Dude, he is.
I think we can safely say this man shat his pants.
As Deadpool would say, I hope he had his brown pants on.
I mean,
because that just happened.
Steve was in a rough spot already. Steve probably had already shit his pants before this happened. He looks like absolute shit.
That's why he looks like shit this whole time. He just is walking around crapping his pants the whole time. He's not even bothering going to the bathroom.
No, he's not shaving. He's not wiping his ass anymore. He's
wow. Now, one thing I want to bring up, and they talk about this when the paranormal people get to the house. They say a poltergeist happens for a short duration and could stop at any time, unless it's a haunting. Hauntings don't normally revolve around living people. Knowing what we know and where this franchise goes, did we determine if this is a poltergeist or a haunting? Because
it doesn't really seem like it's either one. And the movie's called Poltergeist.
Well, I think it's still a poltergeist because I think it's like we get into the other movies because Carol Ann went to the other side. They had a taste of her light or whatever like that, and she was always going to be followed probably for the rest of her life because she had that scent of the other world on her.
So is that what we're to assume why they continue to pursue Carol Ann in part 2 and part 3 is because she's been there?
I think honestly, I think that's what it is she went there and no other living creature had ever done that.
Never returned.
And never been there.
So got that stank on you.
Yeah, she's got that dead stank on her.
Well, then they should be haunting Jo Beth Williams' character too, because she goes through and comes out.
Yeah, but they kind of do because that's her mom. So and they go after her in part 2.
Her mom's not in part 3 whatsoever.
Maybe I forgot. I forgot why she's not in part 3.
Like they send her to her like Carol Ann's aunt's house for the summer or some shit.
Yeah.
And like the family's not in the Craig T. Nelson, Jo Beth Williams, none of them are in the third movie.
No, I know that.
Now, this is outside the explanation in the film, but on Wikipedia it describes a poltergeist as German for loud ghost, noisy spirit.
Yeah.
It's a type of ghost that is responsible for physical disturbances such as loud noises and objects being moved or destroyed. They also depicted as capable of the movement or levitation of objects, capable of pinching, biting, hitting, and tripping people. I don't know. Just thought I just Googled.
Okay, so every time I trip over something, I'm just going to believe it's a poltergeist. It's not my freaking clumsy ass.
It's not your crippling alcoholism.
But that's kind of what I got hung up on in this movie is like we never really determined if this is a poltergeist or a haunting. It seems more like a haunting to me, but then the title of the movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Then it would be The Haunting, and that's a whole horrible movie in itself.
Yeah, I would much rather watch this than The Haunting.
Or is it still a poltergeist, but they're haunting one person? The person, Carol Ann, is haunted.
Right. But they say hauntings don't normally revolve around living people. Like,
yeah,
there's contradictory information in this movie.
But normal living people don't go into a closet and go to the extra plane of the next life if you believe in all that kind of stuff. So that doesn't happen either. So therefore, their explanation of what a poltergeist is null and void.
Well, you're describing her as not a normal person, which I guess you could make that argument, but I don't think in that statement she means she's making that exception for. She's talking about like living human beings.
Yeah,
probably. But this is who cares? We'll never know.
Because this shit happens every day. I mean, kids get sucked into closets all the time. Usually,
I have bite marks all over me. I don't even know where they came from. All different sizes.
That's Gus biting you in the middle of the night.
We don't need to know what you and your wife do. Just keep that out of the conversation. So
I've got bite marks that are, a jaw that's like 12 inches wide. I don't know what's going on.
But I have to say, like, if I were the family here, I'd want my 3 easy payments of $39.99 back from Tangina because she doesn't solve any fucking problems at all.
They get the girl back. They get the girl back, which is a pretty big. Okay. That's worth the price of admission.
Okay, well,
you're still haunted.
She can keep one of her payments of $39.99. She gives me 2 of them back.
You're getting 2/3 payment back. Because the shit they go through.
The kid's not worth your daughter is not worth more than 1/3 of the payment. Interesting. This clearly these guys don't have kids, listeners.
Yep, I sure don't.
No, it is funny because watching this movie, I can see the perspective of the kids, especially like when you're a kid and you're afraid of the closet, you're afraid of this, that, the other. But I can also see the perspective of the parents trying to get the kids to sleep. They end up in your bed, all this kind of stuff, trying to reassure them. I mean, there's no way your kids are ever going back to sleep after this experience.
Right.
Like, imagine trying to tell these kids to go to bed at night after this movie's over. Forget it. These kids are never sleeping again.
And then you got the double tap of that fucking clown is still in the room.
Get rid of the clown.
Get that fucking clown out of here.
Get that fucking clown out of here. Get that fucking clown out of here.
All right,
Get this clown out of here.
I'm fucking sorry. I'm out. But
finally.
But all right, this is the part where I had mentioned briefly earlier about the ending of the film.
Uh-huh.
This movie has 2 endings.
Yeah, it does.
Because you think about it, this house is clean, blah, blah, blah. Most movies, because this is at the hour and a half mark. So standard horror movie for the 80s and stuff, about an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And I mean, if you think about it, the first time I can probably remember seeing this movie and remembering the movie, you think it's over. It's done. Like you can roll credits, boom.
Not only that, the scene of them moving out, packing the truck, like that feels like a post, story, like wrap up,
happy ending. We're moving on up to the east side.
And it doesn't. That part doesn't really make any sense either, because the mom and the dad are talking. She's like, he says he's going to go finish off whatever work he's got to do for the day.
He's going to tell Mr. T to go fuck himself.
Yeah, and she goes, so we are leaving tonight. And he's like, yeah. Yet she's getting the kids in bed. She's taking a bath. Like, everybody's going to bed for the night. So obviously you're not leaving today. Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Does she say we're leaving tonight? I didn't notice that.
Yeah. He says we are not staying another night in this house. They're gone.
Maybe it's early evening.
Dude, and
we're at like 7 p.m. Why would they get the kids to bed?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying. Like, why? And
why would their beds even be in there? Her bed was done too. She was laying in the bed.
Or better yet, she goes and takes a fucking bath.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm getting a bath. I'm gonna go in here, and then that's when the shit starts to all break loose. But I mean, like, okay, if we're not leaving, we're dressed. We're just sitting here with our suitcases, with our underwear, socks, and shit to wear the next day, because they're going to the Holiday Inn on I-74. That was the plan.
And after all the shit, that went down in these two's bedroom, like, why would you even have these kids in that bedroom again?
Fuck yeah!
Why would the kids even agree to be in that bedroom again? Don't forget about letting them or putting them. Those kids would be like, I am not sleeping in that room again. I almost got swallowed by a tree. She got sucked into the nether realm and had to get.
Had to fight Mortal Kombat to get back out.
Yeah,
she's good. But yeah, I'm just kind of like
night. I'm gonna go sleep now. Oh, make sure my clown's looking at me.
Yeah, we've packed the whole fucking truck, but we're gonna leave the creepy clown here just because we're gonna leave him in the house. I guess.
My question was, are they leaving the creepy clown for the next family that moves into the house? It's like, here, you take this creepy son of a bitch.
Yeah, fuck that.
But new family just throws it away immediately. Like as soon as they walk in, they're like, this is garbage. Get rid of it.
Oh yeah.
Like any rational person.
What I want to talk about, and y'all mentioned earlier, all right, we're in the bedroom. She's laying on the bed, and we get the ghost is, I guess, playing a little frisky. He wants to lift up her shirt. Yep. And then start dragging her across the ceiling.
That effect is great.
Yeah, and the thing is when I saw that, and tell me if you thought the same thing, Josh, I went, wow, this looks just like another film that happens 2 years later in 1984.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Where they drag her across the ceiling. Almost exactly the same. I mean, she ends up getting clawed and bleeding from Freddy. But I mean, I'm watching this and I'm like, damn, Wes Craven, you stole this whole fucking scene.
It's like you went to Tobe Hooper and Spielberg and was like,
schlock.
There's that fucking word again.
It's like you went to Tobe Hooper and Spielberg and was like, hey, can I borrow that revolving room you had? No, I'm going to use it in my movie real quick. Yeah. The biggest thing about this second ending we get here is there's one really cool shot, and it's when, she's gone. She's tried to get in the room. It won't let her in the room. We get that great visual effect that, again, looks like Ghostbusters, keeping her out of the bedroom.
Oh, yeah, the demon-looking thing with the wings.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, that's fucking badass.
Yeah, it still looks really amazing.
Yeah. That looks great.
And she goes outside, and again, like she's been saying the whole movie she's worried about people falling into this pool and drowning, and yet her and the dad are the only ones who end up in the pool the entire movie.
Dude, I had a note real quick. Before you go further, when they're looking for Carol Ann and the dad wants to look in the pool, he like runs and like does like a drop kick into the pool. Okay. Thank God Carol Ann wasn't in there, because he was about to just completely like kick the shit out of her.
He just freaking severed her spine right there. The kid is dead in real life. The poor actress died in the pool. That's another urban myth of how she died. She died in the pool when Craig T. Nelson
drop kicked her.
He dropped the Hulk Hogan leg on her. In the fucking end of the pool.
All right, you've convinced me I don't want Craig T. Nelson as my dad anymore. But she, you
They'll
know,
drop the big leg on you.
She continues to fall inside this muddy pool. The neighbors save her from the pool where all the skeletons are popping out. That's a great scene, great visual.
Oh, they're gooey too. They're great. I love the look of those.
And I love that she's just getting completely filthy and muddy and dirty. Like, this is a great scene. But when she gets back in the house, she goes to run down the hallway towards the kid's room, and there's that great vertigo shot where it zooms down the hallway.
Elm Street again.
Yep.
And Jaws.
Yep, and Jaws. But I mean, it fits this movie really well. And then finally we get in the room and shit's going crazy again.
Before we get to the vagina closet,
my God.
Can we go back to?
I was thinking it was more of a butthole. That was
Or
my
butthole closet.
My note said this looks like a colonoscopy.
Yeah, and the tentacles coming out are fucking they're hemorrhoids. Those are hemorrhoids coming out.
Tapeworm. We got some tapeworm.
They had tapeworms. The ghosts have tapeworms. They ate undercooked pork.
I mean, you don't want to get
pork. That was pork falling down the road.
Yeah, you don't want to get sucked into the butthole rectum dimension
of the beast. It's the butthole of the beast. With his tapeworms coming out. But before we dive any deeper into the butthole,
any deeper,
because y'all mentioned the clown, and we talked about the clown earlier, because that happens before she gets back upstairs, of the creepy ass fucking clown. I mean, you're talking about building suspense as a child watching that movie. All right, he looks, the clown's gone, and then he does the look.
Yeah, under the
and
bed.
then he looks under the bed, nothing there, and he looks back, and then the hole when he stands up,
and
that
behind him,
clown is right, and his
nasty.
face is all like, yeah, and it wraps that freaking arm around that. But it's not even that. The fact they show the clown dragging his kicking feet under the bed.
Yeah.
And you're like, and this movie's PG.
Yeah, I mean I'm glad I didn't see that as a kid. That would have scared the shit out of me. And
Eric would still not go to the circus today if he saw this when he was 5 or 6.
Weirdly, my son Charlie is kind of freaked out by clowns, and I don't even know why. Like, I didn't show him anything.
Did he watch It or something? Maybe at a buddy's house, because kids do that.
I mean, he was old. This predates It. I mean, not the first It, but I don't know. But yeah, I do like though that that the kid just goes ape shit and starts tearing up this clown. Like, he kicks the clown's ass.
I didn't really realize that till watching it this time, of how he's tearing all the stuffing out of it.
Oh,
He's like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
I hate you. I mean, that's cathartic for the kid. He's been through a lot. He almost got swallowed by a tree.
I would venture to say, like, we don't know what happened to Carol Ann in the butthole dimension, but I would venture to say that the boy goes through just as much trauma in this movie as Carol Ann does.
Sure.
I think he kind of goes through more.
Yeah,
well, we don't know. Again, we don't know what happened to Carol Ann in the butthole dimension.
They eat lots of pork. They eat pork.
I mean, the kid didn't have to go to the butthole dimension, which is a huge advantage. Because nobody wants to go there. But yeah, he's been through some shit as well.
Yeah.
So would you call, if it was a butthole dimension when they pulled them out, was that like a colonic? They pulled them out. They were kind of hung in there like a kernel of corn, and they pulled it out of the butthole.
Yeah. It was like a colonic. Yeah.
Yeah.
A flushing of the system, you might say.
They cleaned them out. I like it.
They
a little blockage called Carol Ann and Diane.
I have got some editing to do this episode. I tell you what.
Oh hell no! So. This shit needs to stay.
Nope.
This shit needs to say. That's what the beast said in the butthole dimension. But
exactly.
They said, "Oh no, this shit is not staying. We are out of here." And then they went into the living room.
This is why we do this show. It's for butthole of the beast. We get all the gooey shit coming out from around the edges of the door while this is Diane's outside doing all that. But yeah, when she gets in there, Steven, Craig T. Nelson, pulls up and just sees all the fucking strange lights going on. And then the coffins start bursting out of the fucking ground.
I love the coffins. Dude.
That is fucking awesome scene.
All those effects look great, like the ground breaking, the concrete cracking, and like everything coming
the
up.
Tile in the kitchen.
Oh, all that stuff
coming
is
up.
Awesome. And it looks great, and they pop open, and yeah. Oh, I love it, dude.
That's where we get the Mr.
You want
T
to talk about like
interaction.
Halloween? Yeah, you want to talk about how like good Halloween movies? Like this is primo Halloween. You got coffins popping up out of the ground. I mean, come on.
Real skeletons floating in a pool.
Yep.
You know?
So you think this housing development company went out of business after this? I mean, not taking into account the second and third movie or whatever. I mean, I don't know if they really touch on that.
That's the
like,
weird thing. I mean, talking about like how people don't have to prove the supernatural in this movie.
There are plenty of
the
people.
whole
watching
neighborhood watches this house collapse on itself and like disappear.
They're
whole
outside,
neighborhood.
They're outside going, "You saw that shit, right?" You know.
It's kind of like and if you think about it, you know, we're talking about how Wes Craven and Elm Street kind of stolen any. They kind of pulled a Carrie here.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, they don't.
The house disappearing. Yeah.
The house just totally disappears. They pulled a Carrie right here. But it's, I mean, it's good visual effects too. I mean, you can hear the house crumpling like a soda can.
Yeah.
As they drive away. So
there's one thing that every time I've watched this movie with Jenny, she laughs at it, and I wanted to bring it up, and I wish she was here to comment on it. But when they're getting ready to leave the house before all the last ending goes down, the older daughter is talking to the mom, and they're like, "We're gonna go have Steven or whatever his name is drop you off at the hotel on 75 or whatever it is." She says
the Holiday Inn on 74. She's like, "Oh,"
and she goes, "Oh, I remember that place." Like, what do you think the connotation is there? Like,
she does have a hickey, right?
When she's got a hickey when she comes back. She's running around with her boyfriend the whole time, and I think the reason Jenny likes that scene and chuckles at it is because she knows she's out messing around in a hotel on the outskirts of town.
Jesus.
Oh no, she burned herself with the curling iron, as the girls used to say in high school.
But I love when they get to the hotel at the end and Craig T. Nelson like violently fucking shoves that TV out of the hotel room. Like,
yeah, you end on a little comedic note. It's nice. It's a nice way to end it.
And it cracked me up this time because for whatever reason, I seem to remember him just like lightly rolling it outside of the room. But no, he fucking slams that thing against the railing outside. It's pretty damn funny.
Yeah, and I love the shot, the long pull out shot of they just keep focus, and then you get the Carol Ann theme music from that's famous. Everybody knows it pretty much.
Another credit that pops up right there at the end that I found pretty interesting is assistant producer Kathleen Kennedy, who is now in control of the Star Wars empire at Disney. I mean, they've been in business for a long time, so I even double checked it. It is that Kathleen Kennedy. So,
well, don't get started on Star Wars because I think Jon Favreau should just be in charge of all of it and tell everybody else get their fucking hands out of it.
You got to think about it, man. Jon Favreau is kind of responsible for the start of the MCU, and now he's working with Star Wars. So.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
And Mando's doing Mandalorian's doing pretty damn good. So yeah, and now that they're talking about maybe trying to dismiss the newest prequel.
See, okay, we're not even gonna go down.
Yeah, we're not getting on Star Wars because we could have a 4-hour talk about Star Wars and piss everybody off.
If anybody wants to hear us talk about Star Wars, sorry, it's probably never gonna happen on this show. So one thing that is interesting here, and being that this is spooky Halloween season and we're talking horror movies and whatnot, we would typically do top kills, but this is a horror movie that no one dies in, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
plenty your PG, right?
There's plenty of dead people in it, but no one that we are introduced to in this movie dies.
Yeah, even the guy that peels his face off is just a hallucination.
It's just a hallucination, yeah.
That would be my favorite kill, though, if there were a kill.
All right, let's finish this bad boy up.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Why?
Ooh, he had a couple of notes there.
Ooh. I like a couple
few.
I'll go ahead and get started tonight. My good is the family dynamic here is really good. I really like it. It's the heart of the film.
Definitely.
It's genuinely funny and creepy. And I wish Craig T. Nelson was my dad. The bad here, we've talked about Carol Ann and Heather O'Rourke's acting, which isn't superb here, but I think my least favorite part acting-wise of this whole movie, which is really bad, is when when JoBeth Williams is going into the closet. the way that whole exchange, the way that whole exchange happens is so bad, and I hate it. I hate it so much. Like it's like you guys should have got a couple of different takes of that because that did not go over too well.
That's weird. That didn't stick out to me at all.
And my ugly is the stuff floating around the room when they open the door. I think that's ugly as fuck.
Yeah, that hasn't aged well.
So, yeah. Eric, what's your good, the bad, and the ugly? Are you having a stroke over there?
The devil's anus got a hold of Eric.
Sorry, a yawn hit me right as I didn't want to yawn into the microphone, and now I'm talking about the yawn, thus revealing my yawn. But my good is E-Buzz.
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 Good
throughout.
boy.
E-Buzz survives.
Yep.
He's there the whole time. He's a good boy. E-Buzz.
Smart dog. He hopped in the cab too.
That's right. He was like, let's get out of here. Bad is disheveled dad after a week or so of being stressed out. He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. He's carrying a beer around when they come over, like he's drinking a beer. Like you have things in this, like the mom when she discovers the supernatural stuff, and she's like doing experiments in the kitchen and like having fun with it, right? That subverts your expectations,
right?
But and it's interesting and it's different. The mom's not just clutching her pearls; she's curious and all that. I love that. But then we get the dad, and he's just like a cliche of like a stressed out man.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, he's got to have bags under his eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow, and he's going to carry a beer around, and he's going to have sweat stains. I don't know. It's just too lame. And ugly is when the pool guy peeks in through the window and drinks her coffee and takes a taste of the spaghetti sauce on the.
Dude, everybody here is so disrespectful of these people's kitchen, just going in, helping themselves, eating whatever they want.
If I hired a dude, like a construction dude, and he was tasting my spaghetti sauce,
right.
Oh my God, dude. It wouldn't be like a haha roll my eyes. It would be like, I'm calling the police.
He would have got a coffee pot in his face.
Yeah, you need to get the fuck out of here, pal.
All right, Jason, finish it up.
Okay. My good, dude, it's a great movie. I mean, there are parts of this movie that still stand up to the day, like the visual effects, not so much the practical effect of the bathroom scene that we saw. And I was looking this up, and I think that it's Richard Edlund did the special effects for this, and I think he worked on, because he's at ILM and stuff like that. I think, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just looking up his name here right now, because we kept talking about the comparisons of this to Ghostbusters, and I think he worked on Ghostbusters too. I mean, not part 2, but sense. Also. So right. Yeah, you could definitely see those comparisons, like with the wavy spirits and stuff like that, like we see a couple years later. But I mean, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is like the demon thing at the door, the way it looks out. I mean, and I like you guys have mentioned the family aspect of the thing. It's like a nice, wholesome family. Mom and dad love each other. They do whatever for their kids type thing. And then, even they go through hell, they still stick together, even though, Dad Steven is fucking, like he said, disheveled. You mean black eyes? He's falling apart. He's barely holding it together, but he still does. I mean, part 2, he does really kind of go off the deep end with the tequila and gets a little abusive. But my bad is, I would go with maybe, like I said, the practical effect. I mean, it's not ugly to me. It's just bad. It doesn't really hold up to today. Of the whole scene. I did like the steak scene, but the ripping of the face apart, it didn't. I mean, watching it this time around, I'm like, wow, this is really. I mean, even went back and rewound it to watch it again, and I'm like, oh, this is so bad.
I mean, I definitely appreciate what they did there.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it took a lot of work and effort. It's just over the years doesn't age very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't say there's really an ugly to this. I mean, it's a pretty good movie back in 1982. Great story. I think the only ugly thing is the whole thing where Spielberg took a lot from Tobe Hooper. I mean, he did direct this movie. It's his film. even though it's still, I mean, it's definitely got Spielberg's fingerprint on it and stuff like that. But I kind of just felt bad for Tobe Hooper.
Yeah.
So, but that's about it for me.
All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say about Poltergeist before we wrap this bad boy up?
No. Just butthole dimension. I just want to say that one more time. And
Devil's butthole.
We can't stay away from the butthole dimension here on the VHS Files.
Avoid the butthole dimension.
Yeah. It's the Beelzebub butthole.
Well, that's going to do it for that'll do it for our discussion about the butthole here tonight on VHS Files. And we're going to be coming back with our next movie of the week for you will be David Cronenberg's The Fly. Ooh. Finally getting to some Cronenberg on this bad boy.
Cronenberg.
I think I'm going to enjoy that one a little more than this watch. So.
It's been a little while since I've watched The Fly, so I'm anxious to get to it.
Yes,
I'm excited to revisit that one myself. It's been
Eric, you need to go watch The Fly too, because didn't you say you've never seen that?
Well, no, I haven't seen it. I'll watch The Fly first, and then we'll take it from there.
I may actually go back and watch the original Fly from like 58 or whatever.
Yeah, the black and white one where he's got a bug head walking around.
I've got it here I've got the Fly box set that Scream Factory released.
Actually, I have the original as well.
That's cool. May have to go give that one a watch.
Ripley's.
Alrighty, guys. Well, if this is your first time listening to us, thank you. Thank you for hanging around. You can please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out quite a bit. The other thing that will help us is sharing our podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues. That's the best way you can support us at this point in time. Until next time, be kind. Rewind! You've been listening to the VHS Files podcast.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast.
It was fun.
Send your questions, comments, and movie suggestions to vhsfilespodcast@gmail.com.
You sick fucks. You've seen one too many movies.
Don't you blame the movies!
Follow us on all social media outlets at VHS Files Podcast.
Movies don't create psychos.
Check out our YouTube channel for more content.
Movies make psychos more creative.
Thanks for listening.
Where'd Jason go?
I guess he had the shit.
Shit.